So we've already made our answer abundantly clear, but just to make sure we're being clear about it, does time heal all wounds? Let's give a straight answer to that question.
No, it does not. It does not heal all wounds. The phrase that we use at Pure Desire, right, is that nothing goes away until it's resolved. And so I think that really applies to this, that time alone does not heal all wounds.
Right.
That's good.
Yeah, it's one of the things we've talked about that I think people have experiences of this where even if internally they may be wrestling with this idea and objecting a little bit like, I don't know, I think it does. And what we've brought up at a lot of our events is for so many of us, there are encounters we've had from 10, 15, 20 years ago, or even longer, that if we allow our brain to go there are sensations, feelings, smells, things that come right back like it was yesterday. And that's an evidence that just because you got 20 years away from that painful event, if you're still be able to remember the tone of your dad's voice or the look on your mom's face or the words they used to you that had a traumatic wounding impact, if they're that fresh, it's clear time isn't healing it. And what we talk about is how wounds are stored in the limbic part of our brain. And the limbic part of our brain is brilliant because it's God's design to keep us alive. Yeah. But what happens in wounds and trauma is the brain is essentially tricked into thinking, oh, this hurt. It was painful, and pain could be something that kills me. And so I've got to stay alive. I've got to remember that wound and pain so it doesn't happen again. Yeah. And it basically sucks that memory or that event into a part of our brain that doesn't have a clock. It doesn't have a calendar. And it holds it there because our brain thinks it's for our survival.
Right.
So again, it's actually God's brilliant design to keep us alive, but in a way it's being used by sin and in a fallen world against us. And we can actually, through brain science, you could study this from a non-faith perspective to say that's what the brain does. It holds on to trauma to try to protect us, but in its very effort to protect us, it's actually causing continual wounding and pain because we haven't dealt with it.
So let me just clear the air from what happened earlier, okay? The reason why I remember Bob saying it is because I've watched our video course probably 20 times at this point. That's now out, by the way. You should go buy it, puredesire.org/101. Bob talks about this, and Bob, you give this imagery that if time heals all wounds, you're like, no, it doesn't. What happens is if I get this nice gash in my leg, then I'm going to get some lockjaw and some gangrene over time if I don't actually treat the wound. And so that, Nick, is why I remember Bob's, just because of how vivid that was. I don't think I've ever had lockjaw or gangrene, but it just...
We're glad to hear that.
stuck in my head. But it's that idea that things just fester over time if not dealt with.
Yeah. And Nick, like that, the limbic, obviously, application of all of this, in our clinical assessments, one that we give is the post-traumatic stress index. In there's a few of the areas where it basically highlights or shows where pain from the past is affecting us. And that's in post-traumatic stress, where you're responding to something, you're experiencing something now, but you're responding to pain back here. Mm-hmm. Another one is in traumatic bonding, where you're experiencing new relationships where you experience a pain or feel a pain that's similar to a pain from the past. And another one is traumatic repetition, where you're in new scenarios where though the scenario is different, the pain is the same. And so just in this assessment, it's showing like multiple places where where we see how the fallacy of time heals all wounds is not true. Yeah. Because pain's popping up in all these spots, but it's the past pain that we're reliving now.
That's good.